Modern teachings gave you steps. This reveals the source. You are not separate from the law. You are the law. The truth was never lost, only forgotten. Now is the time to remember. The only true law. Introduction. Before the pulse of the modern world, before the race toward fleeting pleasures and hollow answers, there was a singular knowing, a truth not learned, but remembered. It was not written in books, nor passed through temples. It was and is the breath of existence itself, woven into the soul of all things. You have felt the echo. In quiet moments, in restless nights, in the space between thoughts, you have known there is more. The systems you followed, the paths you walked, they brought you close, but not through. That ache you carry is not despair. It is a remembrance, a stirring of what was never truly lost. The ancients, those keepers of the flame, did not chant to summon power. They did not visualize how to bend the world. They became what they sought. They stood as the law itself, effortless, silent, sovereign. There is a fire within you, not symbolic, but real, an immortal blaze. The same force that births galaxies, that weaves light from the void. It lives behind your eyes, beneath your ribs, waiting not to be awakened but recognized. You are not apart from it. You are it, form dressed in flesh, spirit clothed in shadow. This is not a book, it is a memory, a return. These chapters are not teachings but unveilings. They will not add to your collection, they will strip it away, layer by layer, illusion by illusion, until only the law remains. You remain. This path is not one of accumulation. It is the sacred art of shedding. It is not forward, but inward, not toward knowledge, but toward knowing. The only true law has never changed, never faltered, never left. It has only waited, hidden in plain sight, for your return. Part 1, The Great Unveiling. Chapter 1, The Lie You Were Told. In a small town by the edge of a winding river, Eleanor sat at her sewing machine, surrounded by vision boards and sticky notes covered in affirmations. I am a successful designer. My creations grace the finest boutiques. She had repeated these words for years, crafted elaborate visualizations, and filled journals with positive thoughts. Yet her small alterations shop remained empty, her dreams of design excellence gathering dust like the unused fabric in the corner. Each morning, Eleanor would stand before her mirror, reciting the phrases she had learned from countless books and workshops. But beneath the rehearsed optimism, a hollowness echoed. Her words, though hopeful, felt like shadows cast by a flame that wasn't truly burning. The truth you must understand is this: manifestation is not a performance. It is not a script to be memorized or a ritual to be enacted. The modern world has given you fragments of wisdom wrapped in shiny packages, teaching you to mimic the outward signs of power without igniting its source. You have been led to believe that speaking certain words or thinking certain thoughts is enough to move the universe. But the universe responds not to what you say, it responds to what you are. True manifestation arises from a state of being, not from a state of wanting. When your inner nature aligns with the essence of what you seek, reality shifts, not because you commanded it, but because it must. Like water flowing downhill, like fire rising upward. In contrast, there lived a farmer named Thomas who never read a self-help book in his life. His small farm flourished year after year, not because he stood in his fields reciting affirmations, but because he lived in quiet harmony with the land. He understood without words that abundance was not something to be chased, but something to be lived. Thomas didn't need to convince himself of his worth through daily mantras. His hands in the soil, his eyes on the horizon, his heart beating in rhythm with the seasons. This was his manifestation. Without knowing the terms or techniques, he had achieved what Eleanor struggled to grasp: perfect alignment with his true nature. The message is clear. Results flow not from what you do, but from who you are. The power you seek does not need to be summoned. It needs to be remembered. Sacred practice. Take 3 truths you've accepted about manifestation and write them down. Then, beneath each, write what your heart knows beyond these learned beliefs. After this, find a quiet space and sit in complete silence for 3 minutes. Listen not for answers, but for the wisdom that exists in the space between your thoughts. Let the real truth emerge from that silence. Chapter 2. The Great Veil. In every corner of the world, souls like Walter stand before eager crowds, speaking of abundance while their own hearts echo with emptiness. You see, Walter had mastered the language of manifestation. His sermons sparkled with promises of prosperity and divine favor. Yet in the quiet moments before dawn, when his congregation slumbered, he would sit in his study, surrounded by books on positive thinking and manifestation techniques, feeling like an imposter. The truth you must understand is that the pure flame of divine law has been covered by layers of modern interpretation. Like ancient gold buried beneath centuries of sediment, the original wisdom has been mixed with lesser metals, quick-fix solutions, commercialized spirituality, and simplified formulas that promise everything while delivering little. You have been taught to chase manifestation through external means, through words that sound spiritual but lack the fire of truth, through techniques that engage the mind but bypass the soul. The very language of attraction has been stripped of its sacred essence, replaced with a vocabulary of transaction, as if the universe were a cosmic vending machine, waiting for the right combination of thoughts and words. But there was once a time when these teachings were pure, when they flowed directly from source to soul. They spoke not of attraction, but of remembrance, not of getting, but of being. The ancient ones understood that power lies not in what you do, but in who you are beneath all the doing. Grace discovered this truth one autumn morning in her attic. Among dusty boxes and forgotten memories, she found a manuscript, its chapters yellow with age. Unlike the polished spiritual books on her shelf, these words carried weight, raw, unadorned truth that spoke directly to the soul. As she read, something within her recognized what she had always known but forgotten, that manifestation is not about learning new things, but about unlearning the false. The manuscript didn't teach techniques or offer promises. Instead, it spoke of stripping away, of removing the layers of false belief until only truth remained. Grace felt her soul stirring, recognizing in these ancient words something it had long been seeking. What Grace discovered, you must now discover for yourself. Take your journal and write down every belief you hold about manifestation, every technique, every principle, every promise you've been taught. Then, in silence, let your soul speak. Circle only those truths that resonate not with your mind's understanding, but with your spirit's knowing. This is not an exercise in thinking, but in remembering what your soul has never forgotten. Chapter 3. The Ancient Whisper. In the depths of night, when the world grows still and time itself seems to pause, Harold sat at his workbench, surrounded by the gentle ticking of countless timepieces. His skilled hands, which had mended countless watches, trembled as he heard it. A whisper, soft yet unmistakable, drawing him to the dusty corner of his workshop. There, beneath years of accumulated tools and memories, lay a leather-bound journal he had never seen before. As he opened its weathered chapters, the words seemed to glow with an inner light, speaking of a flame that burns eternal in every soul. You see, what Harold discovered that night was not new knowledge, but an ancient remembering. The journal spoke of a divine spark, a sacred flame that resides within all beings, waiting to be acknowledged. This flame is not something to be kindled through effort or willpower. It has always burned, even when forgotten. In the silence of your own heart, this same flame flickers, waiting. It is the source of all creation, the point where your consciousness meets the infinite. The modern world has taught you to seek power through external means, but the ancients knew better. They understood that true creation flows from this inner flame, this divine spark that needs no fuel but recognition. Martha, who baked bread in the village square, discovered this truth in her own way. For years she had followed recipes passed down through generations, measuring and mixing as tradition dictated. But one morning something shifted. Instead of reaching for her recipe book, she closed her eyes and listened to an inner knowing. Her hands moved with new certainty, guided by something deeper than memory. The bread she baked that day carried a different aroma, one that drew people from their homes, speaking of memories they couldn't quite place. Martha had not learned a new technique. She had simply allowed her inner flame to guide her actions. Her creations became not just food, but vessels of transformation, carrying the essence of that divine spark. What Harold found in the midnight whisper and Martha discovered in her morning bread is the same truth that now calls to you. The only true law is not a principle to be mastered, but a remembrance to be honored. It speaks through the quiet moments, through the spaces between thoughts, through the wisdom that rises when the mind grows still. Place your hand upon your heart now. Feel its steady rhythm. Breathe deeply and speak these words aloud. What still burns in me that I have forgotten? Let the answer rise naturally, without force or expectation. Take your journal and write what comes, allowing the ancient flame within to illuminate your words. Chapter 4. The Mirror of Illusion. In the gleaming towers of the financial district, Edgar moved like a king among his domain. His portfolio swelled with investments, his office commanded sweeping views, and his word carried the weight of gold. Yet beneath the polished exterior a crack was forming, invisible at first, then spreading like frost across glass. You see, the universe speaks in mirrors. What Edgar faced was not merely a financial collapse, but a reflection of something far deeper. As his empire crumbled, each falling piece revealed a truth he had long buried, the emptiness that drove his endless acquisition, the fear that fueled his relentless pursuit of control. The law of correspondence flows through all creation like an unbreakable thread. Your outer world mirrors your inner state with perfect precision. When you speak words of abundance while clutching fear in your heart, the universe responds not to your words but to the vibration of your being. This is why so many find their affirmations falling flat. They are attempting to paint over rust with gold leaf. In a small cottage on the outskirts of town, Irene sat at her desk each night, penning stories of love and redemption. She wrote of chance meetings, unexpected windfalls, and healing encounters, never intending them to be more than fiction. Yet one by one, her tales began walking off the page and into her life. A mysterious letter arrived, bearing the exact words she had written the night before. A stranger appeared at her door, carrying the very gift her protagonist had received in Chapter 3. Irene had stumbled upon a truth as old as time itself. Belief shapes reality, not through conscious command, but through the quiet certainty of the soul. Her stories flowed from a place of pure creation, unburdened by doubt or fear. She wrote not to make things happen, but because they were already true in her heart. Your reality is not punishing you or blessing you. It is reflecting you. Every circumstance, every relationship, every success or setback is showing you what vibrates within. The universe holds up its mirror with perfect loyalty, never judging, only reflecting. Stand now before your mirror. Look deeply into your own eyes, those windows to the soul that have witnessed every triumph and every fear. Speak aloud one truth you usually hide from yourself. Feel how it resonates in your body. Notice where it catches in your throat. Then observe your life with new eyes, seeing where this hidden truth has been showing itself all along. For in this practice lies the key to true transformation, not in changing the reflection, but in aligning the source. Chapter 5: The Power You Denied. In the early hours before dawn, Stanley sorted letters in the back room of the post office, his hands moving with practiced efficiency. What none knew was that between each envelope, he could feel the emotions sealed within: joy, sorrow, hope, despair. For 30 years he had dismissed these impressions as imagination, burying his gift beneath layers of doubt. You possess powers beyond measure, yet like Stanley, you have learned to dim your light. The world has taught you to seek validation from outside yourself, to question the whispers of your soul, to doubt the authority encoded in your very being. But what you call intuition, what you dismiss as coincidence, these are echoes of your forgotten sovereignty. Vibrational sovereignty is your natural state. It is not granted by others, nor can it be taken away. When you align with this truth, external influences lose their grip on your reality. The opinions, expectations, and judgments that once shaped your choices become as weightless as shadows in sunlight. Every thought you accept, every belief you harbor, emanates a frequency that shapes your experience. But whose thoughts are you thinking? Whose beliefs have you inherited? The moment you recognize that you alone hold the scepter of your consciousness, everything shifts. In a small jazz club downtown, Beverly stood frozen before the microphone, her voice locked away by years of criticism. She had once sung with the raw power of thunder, but now sought permission from every face in the crowd. Night after night she would attempt to perform, only to find her throat constricted by invisible chains. Then one evening, something broke loose inside her. As she faced the audience, a realization dawned. She had been asking them to grant what was already hers. The next note that emerged from her lips carried the weight of mountains, the freedom of wild rivers. She sang not for approval, but from the depths of her reclaimed authority. Sacred practice. Take your journal and write down 5 specific ways you have surrendered your power to others. Search deeply within yourself, recalling moments when you dimmed your light to make others comfortable or silenced your voice to maintain peace. For each instance of surrender, craft an I am declaration that reclaims your sovereign truth. Make these statements bold and uncompromising, declarations that restore what was always yours. Speak each statement aloud, feeling the vibration of your own authority as it resonates through your being. Let the sound of your voice fill the space around you, carrying the weight of your reclaimed power. Let each word remind you of what you have always been, not what others have tried to make you become. In this sacred act of speaking your truth, you break the chains of external validation and step fully into your divine birthright. Chapter 6: The Lie of Control. In his dimly lit workshop, Gordon hunched over timepieces, adjusting each gear with obsessive precision. His fingers trembled as he attempted to force perfection into every mechanism. Yet despite his meticulous calculations and endless revisions, his creations would often fail in mysterious ways. The more he gripped control, the more it slipped through his fingers like sand. You, like Gordon, may have been taught that manifestation requires rigid mental discipline, that you must monitor every thought, control every feeling, and maintain constant vigilance over your vibration. This exhausting approach stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of the law. The universe operates with mathematical precision, yet its wisdom far exceeds human calculation. When you attempt to micromanage outcomes, you create resistance to the very flow you seek to direct. True alignment is not found in control, but in sacred surrender to your highest vibration. Consider how a flower blooms, not through force or strain, but through natural unfoldment. It does not worry about the exact shape its petals will take or the precise moment they will open. Its beauty emerges from its alignment with its own nature. In a small town by the sea, Lucille attended births with steady hands and an open heart. For years, she had meticulously tracked every dollar, planning and worrying about her financial future. Each client payment was immediately allocated, budgeted, and stretched thin across her needs. The constant calculation left her exhausted and anxious. One morning, after a particularly challenging birth, she reached a breaking point. In that moment of complete exhaustion, she released her grip on control. "I choose peace," she whispered, "whatever comes." Within weeks, unexpected referrals began flowing in. A local doctor recommended her services to wealthy clients. An old debt was suddenly repaid. The more she relaxed into trust, the more abundance naturally appeared. Sacred practice. Close your eyes and visualize each outcome you've been clutching. See these attachments as golden cords extending from your solar plexus. With each breath, imagine cutting these cords with a blade of light, watching them dissolve into the ether. Feel the immediate lightness in your being. Now, write this sacred release statement, speaking each word with conviction and faith. I now release all attachment to specific outcomes, surrendering completely to the perfect unfolding of divine wisdom. I choose peace over control, trust over force, allowing over grasping. I release my need to orchestrate every detail, knowing that the universe's plan far exceeds my limited vision. In this surrender, I find my freedom, and so it is. Chapter 7. Desire Without Shame. In a dimly lit concert hall, Cliff's fingers danced across piano keys during empty rehearsals, his soul pouring into melodies that no audience would hear. Though his talent could move hearts, he kept himself small, deflecting praise and opportunities with practiced modesty. "I just play for enjoyment," he would say, while his spirit cried out for more. You have been taught that desire is dangerous, that wanting recognition, abundance, or acclaim marks you as spiritually immature. This ancient misunderstanding has wrapped chains around your soul's natural reaching toward light. Yet what you call desire is often the universe's own voice within you, whispering of your destined path. The law responds not to what you say you want, but to what your soul knows it deserves. When you diminish your desires, calling them selfish or unspiritual, you reject the divine compass pointing toward your highest expression. Your wants are not random, they are sacred coordinates encoded in your spiritual DNA. In a quiet town, Nancy walked past couples in the park, her wedding ring still heavy on her finger 2 years after her loss. Each time her heart stirred with longing for companionship, she would silence it with guilt. "I should be grateful for what I had," she told herself, though her soul knew there was more life to live. One morning, watching the sunrise, she finally admitted her truth. "I want to love again," she whispered to the dawn. "I want to share my life." The words felt both terrifying and freeing. Within months, Opportunities for connection began appearing. A widow's support group, a community garden, gentle conversations with someone who understood loss. Life responded not to her words, but to her courage in honoring her soul's authentic desire. Your desires are not obstacles to overcome. They are guideposts to your destiny. What you want matters because it reflects who you truly are. Sacred practice. Take 3 deep breaths and allow yourself to name 3 desires you've hidden from yourself. Let each breath carry you deeper into the quiet sanctuary of your own truth. Write these desires down without judgment or hesitation, for they are seeds of your destiny waiting to bloom. Follow each desire with these sacred words. I am worthy of this because my soul longs for it. Feel the power of claiming what your spirit already knows is yours. In this moment of pure acknowledgement, you align with the ancient wisdom that teaches us, what we dare to name, we dare to claim. Your desires are not random wishes, but divine whispers guiding you toward your highest path. Chapter 8. The Sacred Flame Within. Through sterile hospital corridors, Delilah moved mechanically between patients, her hands performing tasks while her spirit felt far away. For 15 years she had dreamed of bringing healing to others, yet something vital had dimmed within her. The protocols, paperwork, and endless shifts had buried a truth she once knew. You see, the flame of purpose burns in every soul, waiting to be remembered. When you feel disconnected from your power, it is not because the flame has died. It has simply been forgotten beneath layers of routine and resignation. One night, called to assist with a difficult birth, Delilah found herself fully present as new life entered the world. In that sacred moment, time stopped. The fluorescent lights faded away, and she felt it, a warmth spreading from her core, an ancient remembering. This was not merely her profession, it was her calling. The flame that had seemed extinguished roared back to life. The universe speaks through such moments of presence. When you align with your inner flame, time bends around you. Reality shifts to match your remembered truth. This is not manifestation through effort. It is creation through embodiment. In a small mountain cabin, Raymond sat alone, his military medals gathering dust on the shelf. His body, once his source of pride, now carried the weight of years and old wounds. Yet one morning, watching the sun pierce through morning mist, he felt something stir within, a strength that had nothing to do with muscle or might. I thought my power was in what I could do, he wrote in his journal. Now I understand it was always in who I am. The flame he had carried through battles was not in his uniform or rank. It was an eternal light that no circumstance could extinguish. Your power has never left you. The flame that guides kings and healers, warriors and creators, burns just as bright within you now as it ever has. It requires no stoking or striving, only recognition and reverence. Sacred practice. In the quiet of evening, light a single candle and place it before you. Let its steady flame draw your gaze inward, becoming a mirror for the eternal light within your own being. Breathe deeply, allowing each breath to carry you further into stillness, and ask aloud, what part of me is ready to burn bright again? Listen with your whole self, not just your ears, but with your heart and spirit. Allow the words that rise to flow onto paper, unedited and true, for they come from a place of ancient knowing. Let your hand move across the page without judgment or hesitation. This is not a call to action or a striving toward something new, but a remembrance of what has always been, a recognition of the divine spark that has never left you. Chapter 9: The Whisper That Guides. In the bustling heart of the city, Louisa filled her calendar with meetings, calls, and deadlines, each moment scheduled, controlled, planned. Yet in the depths of night, when the world grew still, a voice called to her through dreams, soft as moonlight, yet carrying the weight of truth. You have forgotten how to listen. In your rush to shape reality, you have missed the whispers that would guide you home. The universe speaks not in shouts but in gentle nudges, quiet knowings that brush against your soul like a feather on still water. When Louisa finally paused to honor that dream voice, it led her away from her carefully constructed plans. Against all logic, she declined a prestigious promotion, choosing instead to pursue a path that called to her heart. The world did not collapse as she feared. Instead, it opened like a flower at dawn, revealing opportunities she could never have planned. This is the art of divine listening, learning to distinguish between the loud demands of ego and the soft pull of soul truth. The ego speaks in urgency and fear. The divine whispers in peace. Milton understood this truth on the day he felt drawn to revisit Evergreen Trail. For 30 years he had guided others through these mountains, but now in retirement, something called him back. Not a voice of reason or planning, but a quiet knowing. Following this subtle thread, he discovered a group of conservationists seeking someone with exactly his expertise. In that moment, he understood. The whisper had led him precisely where he needed to be. You see, when you attune to the language of spirit, life begins to flow with an effortless grace. The universe communicates through synchronicity, through the quiet yes that blooms in your heart, through the peace that settles in your bones when you align with truth. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you will not be disturbed. A sacred corner where the veil between worlds grows thin. Place your hand over your heart, feeling its steady rhythm, the ancient drum that has kept time since before your first breath. For 10 minutes, sit in complete silence, letting your breath become as gentle as morning mist. Let the noise of the world fall away, until only the eternal now remains. Ask softly, with the reverence of one approaching a temple, what is the whisper beneath my worry? Allow whatever arises to come without judgment or analysis, for the universe speaks most clearly when we release our need to understand. Write down what you receive in these precious moments, knowing that divine wisdom often speaks in the spaces between thoughts, in the pause between heartbeats, in the stillness that cradles truth. Trust that what emerges carries the signature of your highest guidance. Chapter 10: The Awakening of Fire. In the quiet of her kitchen, Betty stood washing dishes, a task she had performed countless times before. Yet on this ordinary morning, something extraordinary occurred. As sunlight streamed through her window, she closed her eyes in a moment of simple prayer, and there, in the darkness behind her eyelids, she glimpsed a flame that had always burned within her. You have been taught to measure worth through roles: mother, wife, homemaker. Yet these labels are merely vessels for something far more sacred. When Betty opened her eyes, she saw her world transformed. The dishes were no longer chores but opportunities for mindful creation. Her garden became an altar where she communed with life itself. Each meal she prepared carried the energy of her awakened spirit. The truth you have been circling is this: recognition changes everything. When you glimpse your divine flame even once, you can never again believe the story of your smallness. The illusions fall away, not through force but through remembrance. The power you sought was never outside you. The approval you craved was always your own to give. Henry discovered this truth through an unexpected doorway. grief. After losing his beloved wife of 40 years, he retreated into darkness. Yet in the depths of his sorrow, he felt something stir, a heat, an ancient knowing. His pain became the very torch that illuminated his inner flame. Where others saw a broken man, he recognized a soul in transformation. Each morning Henry sat in his wife's garden, not to escape his grief, but to let it burn through him. Through tears he whispered to the roses she had planted, and in their blooming he saw a reflection of his own resilience. His loss became not an end but a beginning, a fierce remembrance of the eternal flame within that even death could not extinguish. This is what awakening truly means, not an escape from human experience, but a deeper descent into its sacred core. Your pain, your joy, your mundane moments, all are fuel for the flame of recognition. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed, a sanctuary where your inner wisdom can emerge unhindered. Light a candle if you wish. Though the flame within needs no external light, it burns eternal in the depths of your being. Take 3 deep breaths, placing your hand over your heart, feeling its steady rhythm align with the pulse of universal truth. Then, with pen and paper before you, write your sacred vow to your own divine flame, letting each word arise from that place of knowing within. Begin with the words, "From this day forward, I will," and allow your soul to speak its deepest truth without censorship or doubt. Let your hand flow across the page, guided by that inner light that has always known your path. End your vow with the words, "Because I remember who I am," an acknowledgement of your eternal nature. Seal this holy commitment by reading it aloud 3 times, each time allowing your voice to grow stronger with recognition, feeling the power of your words resonate through every cell of your being. In this moment of dedication, you forge an unbreakable bond with your highest self. Part 2, The Path of Power. Chapter 11, The Lie of Positive Thinking. In the heart of a small town, Bernice arranged flowers with meticulous care, whispering affirmations as she worked. "Money flows to me easily. I am abundant. I attract wealth." Yet each evening, she counted the meager earnings with trembling hands, forcing a smile even as fear gnawed at her heart. You have been taught that positive thoughts alone can reshape your reality. But observe how Bernice's story mirrors your own hidden truth, that beneath forced optimism often lies an ocean of unacknowledged feelings. The law responds not to what you say, but to what you vibrate. When you declare abundance while fear courses through your veins, you create not from your words, but from that deeper current of anxiety. This is why so many find their manifestations blocked. They speak one language while their energy speaks another. True transformation begins not with positive declarations, but with vibrational honesty. Vernon discovered this truth in the months following his wife's passing. Unlike others who urged him to stay positive, he allowed himself to sink into the depths of his grief. In his garden he wept openly. In his empty house he spoke aloud of his loneliness. And in this raw honesty, something shifted. His landscaping business, which he had neglected in his mourning, suddenly began attracting new clients. Old debts were unexpectedly forgiven. The universe responded not to forced gratitude, but to his authentic presence. The law you seek to master is not fooled by surface performances. It reads the truth of your being, your actual vibration, not your wished-for state. When you align your words with your genuine emotional frequency, even if that frequency is temporarily low, you create space for real transformation. Sacred practice. Take 3 deep breaths and center yourself in this moment. On a piece of paper, write down 3 areas of your life where you feel pressured to maintain positive thoughts. Perhaps like Bernice, you force optimism about money, or like Vernon, you hide your heart's true state. Next to each area, write 1 honest emotional truth. Not a complaint, but a clear acknowledgement of your current vibration. For example, I am afraid about my financial future, or I miss the connection I once knew. After each truth, take a full breath and say aloud, I accept this current state of my being. Feel how this acceptance paradoxically begins to shift your energy more than any forced affirmation could. Remember, the law responds to authenticity, not pretense. Your honest vibration, fully felt and accepted without judgment, becomes the living foundation for genuine transformation. When you acknowledge where you truly stand, even in moments of doubt or fear, you align with the eternal currents of manifestation. This truth-telling to yourself opens channels that forced positivity keeps sealed. Chapter 12, The Inner Altar. In the quiet hours before dawn, Franklin stood in his attic, his weathered hands moving with remembered precision. Where once he had built homes for others, he now crafted something far more intimate. A small wooden altar, its surface smooth beneath his touch. This sacred space, though modest in size, held an energy that filled the entire room. You too carry within you this innate need for sacred space, a point of contact between your earthly presence and eternal flame. The physical world you inhabit was never meant to be separate from your spiritual practice. Each gesture, each mindful moment becomes a bridge between the seen and unseen realms. The law responds not to sporadic pleas, but to sustained spiritual rhythm. When you establish a daily connection with your inner flame, you create a channel through which divine energy naturally flows. This is not about rigid ritual or empty ceremony. It is about crafting moments of pure presence, where your soul can remember its own light. Many seek manifestation through constant doing, yet the greatest power lies in sacred being. Like Franklin's altar, your spiritual practice needs a physical anchor in time and space. This becomes your point of power, where inner and outer worlds merge. Estelle discovered this truth in the silence of her mornings. Before the library opened, before the world stirred, she would light a single candle and speak 1 word: peace. Trust. Allow. This simple act became her anchor, a daily remembrance that transformed her scattered life into one of quiet purpose. Her manifestations arose not from complex techniques, but from this sacred simplicity. Your power to create does not come from endless activity, but from centered presence. When you establish a daily practice of connecting with your inner flame, you align with the natural rhythm of universal law. This alignment creates without striving, attracts without grasping. Sacred practice. Choose a space in your home, it need not be large, and designate it as your altar of presence. This sacred corner will become your gateway to infinite possibility. Select a time when the world still sleeps or has not yet claimed your attention, when the veil between the physical and spiritual realms grows thin. Write down a single phrase that resonates with your deepest truth, words that speak to the eternal wisdom dwelling in your heart. Each morning in this space, with these words, light a candle to your own remembering. Let the gentle flame remind you of the light you carry within. As you sit in quiet communion with your higher self, allow this ritual to become your daily anchor to the eternal flame within. Through this simple practice, you create a bridge between your earthly existence and the divine forces that guide your path. Chapter 13, The Lie of Loud Effort. In the dimly lit corners of a once bustling jazz club, Oscar's fingers trembled over piano keys that had known his touch for 30 years. Night after night, he pushed himself to play faster, better, louder, believing that if he could just work harder, fame would finally notice him. But on this evening, his hands seized up entirely, refusing to strike another note. You too may recognize this melody of endless striving. Like Oscar, you have been taught that manifestation requires constant motion, perpetual effort, an endless sprint toward your desires. Yet the universe operates on a different principle entirely. When you align with the true law, action flows not from strain, but from sacred resonance. Just as music exists in the spaces between notes, your creative power dwells in the silence between efforts. This is not laziness, it is divine efficiency. Consider how Joanne discovered this truth. Her small tailoring shop had become a prison of deadlines and demands. Each stitch felt mechanical, each garment a burden, until one day her thread snapped for the final time. In surrender, she set aside her scissors and sat in stillness. When she returned to her work days later, something had shifted. Her hands moved with love again, and mysteriously, clients began arriving who valued her artistry, not just her speed. This is the hidden wisdom. The universe responds not to the volume of your effort, but to the vibration of your being. When you force an outcome, you create resistance. When you align with your inner flame, you become a channel for grace. Look at your own life now. Where are you creating noise instead of music? Where are you pushing against the current instead of flowing with it? The law of resonance teaches that what you seek is seeking you, but it can only find you when you're vibrating in harmony with it. Sacred practice, and take a moment now. Draw forth your journal and write down 3 areas of your life where exhaustion has become your constant companion. Those spaces where you find yourself pushing against invisible walls, where struggle has replaced grace. For each one, close your eyes, place your hand upon your heart, and ask with gentle curiosity, what would this look like if it flowed? Write down the first whisper that arrives, without judgment or analysis. Trust that the universe speaks through these subtle impressions. Let your inner wisdom speak through the silence, for it knows the path of least resistance, the way of natural harmony. These first delicate insights often carry the seeds of profound transformation. Chapter 14. Emotion is Sacred Flame. In a small town where whispers carried like autumn leaves, Miles stood behind his barber chair, scissors moving with mechanical precision. For 20 years, he had worn stoicism like armor, believing emotion to be weakness. His customers knew him as the silent barber, reliable, steady, unmoved. Yet beneath this carefully constructed facade, an ocean of grief churned. The loss of his wife, the estrangement from his son, the dreams he had buried, all sealed behind a wall of practiced indifference. Until that Wednesday morning, when something cracked. As he drew the razor across Mr. Thompson's weathered face, a tear fell unbidden onto the white cloth. Then another, and another. Miles' hands trembled as decades of contained sorrow spilled forth. But instead of recoiling, Mr. Thompson reached up and grasped Miles's hand. "This," he whispered, "is the most powerful moment of my life, watching a man remember he has a heart." You see, emotion is not the enemy of manifestation. It is its sacred fuel. Each feeling that rises within you carries a message, an energy seeking expression. When you deny these messages, you damn the very force that could transform your reality. Consider Viola, whose husband's passing left her with a rage that frightened her. She tried to bury it beneath meditation and forced forgiveness, until a wise woman told her, "Your anger is holy too." In accepting her fury, in letting it speak its truth, Viola found not destruction, but direction. Her rage became the flame that forged clarity, showing her which bridges to burn and which paths to walk. This is the deeper truth. Emotion is energy in motion. It will either move through you as transformation or stay trapped as limitation. The law responds not to what you pretend to feel, but to what truly moves within you. The practice: choose one dominant emotion present in you today. Whether it brings comfort or discomfort, welcome it as a messenger. Close your eyes. Breathe deeply into the space where this feeling lives within your body, whether it dwells in your heart, your stomach, or elsewhere. Ask it gently, as you would a trusted friend. What do you want me to know? Let its wisdom rise without censorship or judgment, allowing whatever emerges to simply be. Write its message in your journal with complete honesty, capturing both its whispers and its thunder. Then symbolically offer this truth to your inner flame, that eternal spark of divine consciousness within you, knowing that even the most difficult emotions carry precious seeds of your becoming. In this sacred dialogue with yourself, you open the channel for profound transformation. Chapter 15. Reclaiming the Word. In a village where words were measured like precious coins, Gerald clutched his silence like a shield. From childhood, his stutter had been his constant companion, turning each sentence into a battle. While others chanted their affirmations with practiced ease, he watched from the shadows, believing his broken speech made him unworthy of the law's grace. You see, the world has taught you that words must be perfect, polished, repeated precisely. Yet the universe responds not to the smoothness of speech, but to the resonance of truth within it. One dawn, as Gerald stood before his mirror, exhausted from endless attempts at proper manifestation, something shifted. Instead of forcing the prescribed phrases, he simply touched his heart and spoke what lived there. I am enough. Though the words stumbled, they carried the weight of his soul's certainty. In that moment, the law awakened not to his speech, but to his essence. The creative power of a word lies not in its form, but in its fire. When you speak from the depth of your being, even a whisper can move mountains. Yet 1,000 perfectly pronounced affirmations, empty of soul truth, will echo without answer. Margaret, a poet renowned for her spiritual verses, spent years crafting elaborate prayers and manifestation statements. Her words were beautiful but bore no fruit. One night, throwing aside her carefully constructed phrases, she wrote in her journal, "I am tired. I am scared. I am ready." The raw honesty of these simple words shifted something in the fabric of her reality. Within days, publishers who had ignored her for years suddenly called, "This is the forgotten truth. The law responds not to what you say, but to what you embody. Your words are vessels. They must be filled with the wine of your authentic presence to have power." Sacred speech practice. Find a quiet space where you can be alone. Let go of all the manifestation phrases you've memorized. Place your hand on your heart and listen deeply. Speak aloud 3 statements that rise naturally from your being. Not what you think you should say, but what feels true in this moment. After each phrase, pause and write down how your body responds. Does it expand or contract? Is it warm or cool? Keep the statement that makes your inner flame dance highest. This is your soul's language, and the universe knows its dialect well. Chapter 16. The Symbol of the Seed. In the heart of a forgotten valley lived Arnold, whose hands knew the texture of every soil, but whose heart had grown as hard as untilled earth. Each morning he would scatter seeds across his garden with trembling fingers, his movements driven by desperation rather than devotion. "Grow," he would command, pacing anxiously as fear cast long shadows over his rows of withering hopes. "You must understand that every thought you plant carries the vibration of its sowing. When you scatter your intentions from a place of lack, you water them with the very absence you seek to overcome. The universe responds not to the size of your garden, but to the spirit of your planting. The soil of consciousness is the sacred ground where all manifestation takes root. Just as a seed contains a universe of possibility within its humble shell, your intentions carry worlds within them. But the law operates through natural principles. What you plant in fear will bear the fruit of anxiety. What you sow in love will bloom in abundance. In a small schoolhouse across town, Clarabelle taught her students with quiet joy. Each day she planted tiny seeds of kindness, a gentle word here, an encouraging smile there, never keeping count, never expecting return. She simply tended to these moments as a gardener tends to beloved flowers. One autumn morning, a former student's parent offered her the opportunity to lead a prestigious educational program, the very dream she had never dared to voice. This is the wisdom of the seed. Its power lies not in forcing growth, but in surrendering to the sacred cycle of becoming. When you plant your intentions from a place of inner alignment, you need not dig them up each day to check their progress. The law works in the dark soil of trust. Sacred practice. Take a moment now to hold a single seed of intention in the palm of your consciousness. Let it rest there, feeling its weight and potential. Write it down with careful clarity, allowing each word to emerge from the depths of your truest self. Then, beneath it, inscribe not your plans for control, but your commitment to faith. How will you tend this seed with love, watching over it as a mother watches her sleeping child? How will you trust its unfolding, surrendering to the ancient wisdom that guides all growth? Remember, the most powerful gardens grow not from anxiety, but from devotion to the quiet work of nurturing what matters most. In this sacred practice of patient cultivation, you align yourself with the eternal rhythms that have guided seekers throughout time, becoming one with the divine gardener who tends to all of creation. Chapter 17. Action Born of Fire. Through the sterile halls of St. Mary's Hospital walked Dolores, her footsteps echoing the same mechanical rhythm they had for 20 years. Each bandage changed, each chart filed, movements born of habit rather than heart, until one morning a patient looked into her eyes and asked, "When was the last time you felt truly alive?" The question pierced her numbness like a shaft of light through ancient dust. You see, there exists a profound difference between motion and inspired action. Most humans move through their days like sleepwalkers, performing tasks that stem from duty rather than divine impulse. Yet within you burns a flame that knows precisely which steps will align with your highest path. When you act from this inner fire, you are not reaching for results. You are expressing the fullness of what already lives within you. This is the sacred paradox. True manifestation flows not from striving, but from allowing the divine to move through you. In the shadows of the city's forgotten walls, Wilbur had not lifted a brush in 7 years. Then one dawn, something stirred in his chest, an undeniable urge that pulled him from his bed to face a blank wall. Without planning or purpose, his hands began to dance across the concrete, channeling colors that spoke of awakening. As the sun rose higher, a wealthy collector happened to pass by, transfixed by the raw energy emanating from the still wet paint. Within days, Wilbur's work hung in galleries across the city. This truth remains constant. When action springs from the soul's fire, rather than the mind's planning, the universe conspires to meet your movement. Your task is not to force the river of life. but to discern which actions arise from your depths and which from your doubts. Sacred practice. Take a moment now in sacred silence. Feel deeply into your body, letting your breath slow and your mind grow still. Write down one action that calls to you from the depths, one movement your soul whispers to make, however small or grand it may seem. Then pause and place your hand upon your heart, breathing into that sacred space as you ask, does this impulse spring from fullness or fear? Listen carefully to the wisdom that rises. If you sense the warm glow of truth rather than the cold grip of lack, if the action fills you with quiet certainty rather than anxious urgency, rise and take this action before the sun sets today. Do not delay, for timing itself carries power. In this way you align with the law's most potent truth. Inspired action, born of inner knowing, opens doors that mere effort and striving cannot reach. The universe responds not to the force of your will, but to the authenticity of your movement. Chapter 18, Faith Without Sight. In a dimly lit concert hall, Eunice's fingers hover above the piano keys. Through her eyes have never known light. Her soul perceives melodies that most seeing hearts miss. Night after night, she composes symphonies that flow not from sheet music but from the whispers of her inner flame. You too possess this gift of inner sight, a knowing that transcends what your physical eyes perceive. The universe operates first in the realm of energy, then manifests in form. Those who wait for visible proof before trusting their path will forever remain steps behind their destiny. When Eunice plays, audiences weep, moved by music born from darkness yet radiating pure light. Her fingers dance with certainty, guided by an intelligence deeper than sight. This is the way of true manifestation, trusting the unseen current that flows through your soul. In a small garage on the outskirts of town, Warren wipes grease from his hands, studying his dwindling savings. Every logical voice screams, "Wait," yet something deeper pulls him toward an investment in his dreams. Though his bank account shows lack, his spirit resonates with abundance. Following this knowing despite external evidence, he enrolls in advanced certification courses. Within months, opportunities emerge that his logical mind could never have predicted. Your path, like Warren's, may appear shrouded in uncertainty, yet beneath the apparent darkness burns a light that never fails to guide those who trust it. The universe responds not to what you see, but to what you know in the depths of your being. This truth remains eternal. Sight can deceive, but knowing never does. Your inner flame illuminates the way forward, even when your eyes perceive only shadows. Sacred practice. Choose one area where you lack clarity. Write a vow. Even if I can't see the path, I will trust my flame to guide me. Sit with your hand over your heart for 3 deep, intentional breaths, feeling the certainty that lives beneath your doubt. Let the steady rhythm of your heartbeat remind you of the ancient wisdom pulsing through your being. This eternal flame within becomes your compass when the way seems dark, guiding you through the shadows of uncertainty with unwavering truth. Trust in this sacred connection, for it speaks with the voice of ages, whispering the path that your soul already knows. Chapter 19, The Lie of Letting Go. In a sunlit studio, Phyllis stands before her students, guiding them through poses while an inner battle rages. "Let it all go," she instructs, echoing the spiritual teachings she's collected over years. Yet as her students release their breath, Phyllis holds tighter to her confusion. Despite years of letting go, her deepest dreams remain unrealized. You have heard this wisdom before, the call to release, surrender, detach. But like Phyllis, you may have misunderstood its sacred meaning. True detachment is not the death of desire, it is the release of fear's grip upon it. When you attempt to let go of your soul's authentic longings, you create resistance to the very flow you seek to enter. The universe responds not to the absence of desire, but to the presence of trust. Your dreams are not meant to be discarded. They are meant to be held in open hands, neither grasped nor pushed away. This is the art of sacred detachment, maintaining the purity of your desire while releasing your grip on its timing and form. In a quiet corner of town, Harvey nurtures his vision of a bookstore, not with desperate clutching, but with peaceful certainty. He holds the dream like a bird in open palms, neither caging it nor shooing it away. When weeks pass without leads, he does not abandon his desire. He simply trusts its unfolding. Then one morning, a letter arrives. A historic building, perfect for his vision, has become available at precisely the right time. The law responds to this delicate balance, desire alive in your heart, yet free from the chains of how and when. This is not the release of dreams, but the release of doubt. Not the abandonment of vision, but the surrender of control. When Phyllis finally understands this truth, she stops trying to empty herself of wanting. Instead, she learns to want from a place of fullness, trusting the timing of all things. Her studio begins to flourish not because she let go of her dreams, but because she let go of her fear about them. Sacred practice. Write down one dream that burns in your heart, the deepest desire that stirs your soul when all is quiet. Then, with your hand placed gently over your heart, write these sacred words with deliberate care. I trust this is mine in time. I will release the when and how. Speak these words aloud 3 times, feeling their truth resonate through your entire being. Let each syllable vibrate with the power of pure trust, allowing the warmth of acceptance to flow from your heart center through your entire body. This simple yet profound ritual creates a bridge between your earthly desires and divine timing. Chapter 20, You Are the Flame. In a dimly lit room, Loretta arranges her altar with precise movements. Crystal points catch the light. Sacred texts lean against polished stones, and candles, so many candles, stand ready for their nightly ritual. Each evening she lights them one by one, desperately seeking that elusive feeling of connection. Yet peace remains just beyond her grasp. You, like Loretta, may have surrounded yourself with external symbols of spirituality. These tools can serve as beautiful reminders, but they are not the source of your power. The truth that has whispered through every teaching in these chapters now rises to full voice. The flame you seek has never been outside of you. The law is not a force to be summoned through ritual or beckoned through practice. It is the very essence of what you are. Every candle Loretta lit was a mirror of her own inner light. Every crystal she placed was a reflection of her own power. The moment she realized this, her entire practice transformed. She no longer lit candles to find the sacred. She lit them in recognition of the sacred fire already burning within. In a small town marked by unrest, Ned returns from war carrying an unexpected gift. He seeks no followers, builds no temple, teaches no technique. He simply walks the streets in perfect peace, his presence a living flame that touches all who cross his path. Without speaking of transformation, he transforms. Without teaching the law, he embodies it. The town begins to shift around him. Neighbors who once argued find themselves sharing meals. Gardens spring up in vacant lots. Children play in streets that once stood empty. Ned has become a lens through which others glimpse their own light. Not because he tried to change them, but because he remembered who he was. This is the deepest truth. The law is not a practice to perfect, but a nature to remember. Every teaching, every practice, every story in these chapters has led you here, to the recognition that you are not the seeker of light, you are the light itself, temporarily forgotten. The time has come to cease the endless seeking, to let your presence be your practice, to walk not as one who hopes to find power, but as one who remembers they are power embodied. Sacred practice. Stand before your mirror in a quiet, sacred moment. Let your eyes meet their own reflection, gazing deeply into the eternal presence that looks back at you. Speak these words aloud with quiet authority. I am not the seeker of light. I am the flame itself. Feel how these words resonate in your chest, how they awaken something ancient within you. Write in your journal what emotions arise as this truth lands in your being, what fears dissolve, what power awakens, what knowing stirs in the depths of your soul. Note especially any resistance you feel, for this too is part of remembering your true nature. Part 3, The Embodied Law. Chapter 21, Master of the Inner Realm. High in his chambers, Cornelius sat among leather-bound law books, his gavel collecting dust. For 40 years he had wielded authority from the bench, yet now, in the silence of retirement, he faced a startling revelation. He had never truly ruled himself. You, like Cornelius, may have achieved positions of external power while remaining a servant to inner forces you barely recognize. The true seat of authority lies not in titles or accomplishments, but in the sacred chamber of your consciousness. When you understand this eternal truth, you realize that mastery begins within. Every thought you entertain is a law you enact. Every emotion you harbor becomes a decree that shapes your reality. The universe responds not to your outer position, but to your inner sovereignty. In the quiet corners of her studio, Elaine faced canvases splashed with confusion. For years, she had run from her inner turbulence, seeking peace through avoidance. Until one dawn, she chose differently. Instead of fleeing the chaos, she sat with it. She watched as her scattered thoughts settled like paint in still water. As she learned to govern her inner world with gentle authority, her art transformed. More surprisingly, her life followed suit. Relationships clarified, opportunities aligned, abundance flowed. This transformation illuminates an ageless truth. The outer world naturally aligns with those who first align within. When you claim dominion over your inner realm, reality itself bows to your sovereign presence. Sacred practice. Take your journal and write down one area where you feel powerless, a situation, relationship, or circumstance that seems beyond your control. Sit with this awareness, not in judgment, but in recognition of what must be transformed. Then, drawing upon the full authority of your divine nature, rise to your feet and declare aloud with unwavering conviction, I reclaim dominion here. I am the master of my inner realm. Let these words resonate through your being, feeling their truth anchor within your soul. Repeat this declaration daily, watching as your inner sovereignty gradually reshapes the outer world to match your newly claimed power. Chapter 22, Living Symbols. Living Flame. In the dim light of his workshop, Wallace traced his fingers over timepieces, each tick marking moments that seemed increasingly hollow. One evening, as dust motes danced in the fading sunlight, his hands reached for a piece of wood instead of his usual tools. Without thought or plan, he began to carve, circles within circles, spirals that seemed to have no beginning or end, patterns that felt older than time itself. You too carry within you an ancient language of symbols, waiting to be remembered. These sacred geometries, these timeless forms, are not mere decorations. They are keys that unlock the deeper chambers of your consciousness. When you encounter or create such symbols, you activate a knowing that transcends thought, a wisdom that predates words. The power of sacred symbols lies not in their outer form, but in their ability to mirror the divine architecture within you. Each curve, each line, each intersection speaks to a part of your soul that remembers the original language of creation. These symbols serve as bridges between the seen and unseen realms, anchoring celestial frequencies in earthly form. Frances discovered this truth unexpectedly. While cleaning her grandmother's attic, she found an old silver pendant, a simple design of interwoven circles. Something in her responded to its pattern, though she couldn't say why. She began wearing it daily, pressing it between her palms when anxiety arose. Within weeks, a peculiar peace descended, not forced or practiced, but remembered. The pendant hadn't given her anything new. It had simply awakened what lay dormant within. This is the secret of sacred symbols. They do not grant power. They remind you of the power you already possess. Like mirrors reflecting light, they show you what you've forgotten about yourself. When you work with symbols consciously, you create pathways for divine energy to flow more freely through your life. Sacred practice. In stillness, choose or draw a symbol that calls to your soul. It may be a spiral, a cross, a circle, or any form that resonates with your inner knowing. Some will feel drawn to ancient symbols like the tree of life or the flower of life, while others may discover their sacred symbol in nature's patterns, a seashell's curve, a leaf's veins, or the geometry of a snowflake. Trust your intuition in this choice, for the symbol that beckons to you carries a message meant for your spirit alone. Place this symbol where you will see it daily, on your altar, beside your bed, or in a quiet corner where you pause to reflect. Sit before it in silence and ask, "What truth do you hold for me?" Allow the answer to arise not from thought, but from the depths of your being. Let the symbol speak to you, through feeling, through memory, through the whispers of ancient wisdom that stir within your heart. Chapter 23. The Frequency of Truth. In a dimly lit radio station, Earl sat before his control panel, fingers dancing across dials and switches. For 30 years, he had helped others find their perfect frequency. Talk show hosts reaching their audience, musicians hitting their sweet spot, advertisers striking the right tone. Yet in the quiet moments between broadcasts, a static filled his own heart. You, like Earl, may have mastered the art of tuning others while remaining deaf to your own song. The law of creation operates through frequency, not through the words you speak or the actions you take, but through the vibration you embody. When your inner state aligns with what you seek, reality shifts to match it. This truth remains hidden from those who chase external adjustments while ignoring their internal frequency. You cannot attract abundance while vibrating at the frequency of lack. You cannot draw love while resonating with fear. The universe responds not to your wishes, but to your being. Consider Lucinda, whose voice once filled smoky jazz clubs with songs that pleased the crowd, but left her empty. One night, exhausted by pretense, she sang what moved her soul, raw, real, unpolished. The audience fell silent, then erupted. Soon, venues sought her not for her technique, but for her truth. Her authenticity became her magnetism. This is the essence of vibrational integrity. When you align your frequency with your deepest truth, you need not chase or convince. The law responds to resonance, not request. Like a tuning fork that vibrates in harmony with its matching tone, your reality aligns with your authentic frequency. Your work is not to perfect your performance, but to purify your signal. Each thought, each feeling, each moment of presence either clarifies or clouds your transmission. When you vibrate in alignment with what you seek, you need not reach for it. It is drawn to you by universal law. Sacred practice, complete this statement in your journal. The version of me who already has what I desire feels like. Let your handwriting without censorship, allowing the truth to flow from your deepest knowing. Do not overthink or judge what emerges. Simply let the words spill onto the page with pure authenticity. Then, for today, inhabit that frequency not through effort, but through remembrance. Feel into that version of yourself as though recalling a familiar song. Your being becomes your receiving. When you embody this frequency with unwavering faith, the universe has no choice but to reflect your inner reality in your outer world. Chapter 24. From Seeking to Being. High in the mountains, where mist clings to ancient stone, Delbert trudged from temple to temple. His weathered backpack held sacred texts from 7 traditions, yet his heart remained hollow. For 20 years he had crossed deserts and scaled peaks, seeking the key to spiritual awakening. Each guru offered a new practice. Each book promised hidden knowledge, but transformation eluded him. You too have perhaps wandered far in search of what already dwells within. The great paradox of spiritual seeking is that what you chase forever recedes, while what you are called quietly from your core. One morning, as Delbert rested beneath a gnarled oak, an aged hermit appeared. His eyes held the depth of still waters, his presence an inexplicable peace. 20 years of seeking, the hermit said, though Delbert had spoken nothing. Be still, and you'll find it in yourself. The law reveals itself not through endless pursuit, but through the courage to stop and recognize your inherent divinity. Every external search leads back to this truth. You already are what you seek to become. In a busy hospital ward, Pearl exemplified this shift from seeking to being. For years, she had tried to be more loving, reading books on compassion, attending workshops on kindness, forcing herself to smile wider and serve longer. Yet her efforts left her drained, her care mechanical. One morning, gazing at her reflection, she simply decided, I am in love. No trying, no effort, just recognition of what was always true. Within days, patients began responding differently. Healing accelerated. Staff noticed a change they couldn't explain. Pearl hadn't learned anything new. She had simply stopped trying to become what she already was. The shift from seeking to being marks spiritual maturity. When you cease the endless chase and rest in your divine nature, the law operates through you rather than despite you. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed, a sanctuary for this sacred communion with your true nature. Sit with your spine straight but relaxed, as though an invisible thread gently pulls you upward from the crown of your head. Close your eyes and breathe deeply, allowing each breath to carry you deeper into presence. Repeat these words with each breath, letting them sink into the depths of your being. There is nothing to chase. I already am. Notice what arises in response to this profound truth: resistance, doubt, peace, or revelation. Your reactions are signposts on the path of awakening. Write down any resistance that surfaces, examining it with gentle curiosity rather than judgment. Then offer each point of resistance this powerful blessing, speaking from your heart. I see you. I accept you. I will release you. Let these words dissolve the barriers between who you think you are and who you truly are. Chapter 25, The Sacred Yes. In a small mountain village, Otis spent his days shaping stone into beautiful forms. Each morning, he would run his calloused hands across rough surfaces, sensing the shape waiting to emerge. Yet when word came that his brother lay ill in a distant town, Otis turned away from the call, claiming his work couldn't wait. You may recognize this resistance in your own heart, the way it tightens against life's gentle redirections. How often have you heard the whisper of divine guidance, only to turn away, believing your plans hold more wisdom than the universe's flow? For 3 nights, Otis dreamed of a path he'd never seen, winding through unfamiliar woods. On the 4th morning, he surrendered. Yes, he whispered, packing his tools. This single word opened a door he couldn't have imagined. In caring for his brother, he discovered ancient stonework patterns that transformed his craft entirely. His surrender became his elevation. The law honors sacred agreement. When you align with its flow rather than resist its current, doors open that no amount of forcing could reveal. Surrender is not defeat, it is divine collaboration. In a wealthy household across the valley, young Minnie dusted shelves and arranged flowers, dreaming of books she'd never read. One autumn morning, she heard of evening classes at the local school. Everything in her practical mind said no, but something deeper whispered yes. Following this whisper, though it defied logic, she rearranged her entire schedule. Within months, her studies revealed an aptitude for mathematics that would later transform not only her life, but the lives of countless others through her teaching. Her simple yes set in motion ripples she could never have planned. When you resist what calls you, you resist your own expansion. The universe cannot deliver through a closed door. Your surrender is the key that unlocks your next becoming. Sacred practice. Sit in silence with your hand upon your heart, feeling its steady rhythm beneath your palm. Recall a moment when life whispered yes, when something inside you recognized a truth your mind tried to deny, when your soul knew the path before your thoughts could form doubts. Write this moment in your journal, capturing every detail of that sacred recognition. Then write these words: if I trusted this calling fully now. Let your soul speak without censorship, without the filters of logic or practicality. What emerges may surprise you, for the wisdom of surrender often exceeds the limitations of our plans. In this raw honesty, you may discover dreams that have been waiting patiently for acknowledgement, callings that have knocked softly at the door of your consciousness. Trust that what flows through your pen carries the seeds of your next transformation. Chapter 26. The Field of Miracles. In the quiet suburbs of a sleepy town, Burl sat alone on his front porch, the weight of retirement heavy on his shoulders. For 40 years he had coached young athletes, teaching them about victory and perseverance. Now, watching neighborhood children play, he felt disconnected from the fire that once drove him. You see, when the heart loses its connection to the miraculous, even the simplest joys can fade into shadow. Yet the universe never stops orchestrating its symphony of synchronicity. It simply waits for you to tune in again. One morning, seeing a young boy struggle with his batting stance, Burl felt moved to offer guidance. This single act, this moment of following his heart's pull, set in motion a cascade of events beyond imagination. The boy's father turned out to be a community leader who had been seeking someone to establish a youth mentorship program. Within weeks, Burl found himself at the center of a movement that transformed not just young lives, but the entire community. What you witness here is the miracle field, a vibrational realm where divine orchestration flows unimpeded. When you align with the only true law, coincidence becomes impossible. Everything moves in perfect harmony because you have entered the natural state of creation. Georgia understood this truth, though she discovered it through loss. After her husband's passing, she felt adrift in grief. Yet one morning, she felt drawn to visit the local garden center, a place she'd never frequented before. There, a stranger's kind words led her to a grief support group. The group introduced her to energy healing, which not only soothed her emotional pain, but mysteriously resolved a chronic physical condition doctors had deemed permanent. Each step appeared random, yet was perfectly orchestrated by the intelligence of the universe. Georgia simply followed each gentle nudge, each whispered invitation, and found herself walking through one miracle after another. You see, miracles are not exceptions to the law. They are its natural expression. When you align with this truth, the extraordinary becomes your daily bread. The only question is, will you recognize the invitations when they appear? Sacred practice. Take your journal now. Write down 3 moments from your life when perfect timing or coincidence led to something remarkable. Look deeply at each instance where the universe conspired in your favor. Perhaps a chance meeting that changed everything, an unexpected opportunity that appeared just when you needed it, or a seemingly random event that led to profound transformation. Feel into the truth of each experience, allowing yourself to recognize the divine orchestration that was present all along. Then, with your hand placed gently over your heart, connecting to your own inner wisdom, write these words with conviction and reverence. The field of miracles is real, and I am walking through it. Let this declaration serve as your acknowledgement of the sacred dance between your consciousness and the infinite intelligence that guides all things. Chapter 27. Truth Walks with You. In a small village where cobblestones whispered ancient stories, Roy mended shoes in a workshop passed down through generations. Yet his true craft emerged not through leather and thread, but through the quality of his presence. You may recognize this truth. When a soul aligns with its inner flame, no words are needed to illuminate the path. Roy discovered this wisdom not through study or seeking, but through surrender to what burned within him. Each morning as he opened his shop, he chose to meet every person with the same peaceful presence he had found in his deepest meditations. He didn't preach or teach, he simply was. Those who entered his shop with hurried steps found themselves slowing down. Those who arrived with troubled hearts left carrying inexplicable peace. The law works through being, not doing. As Roy embodied his truth, the village began to shift around him. People started bringing not just their worn shoes, but their worn spirits. They sought him out not for his words, but for the silent teaching of his presence. In another town, Flora, a midwife of 30 years, learned this same principle in the sacred space of birthing rooms. During a particularly difficult delivery, where fear had gripped both mother and medical staff, Flora simply entered and stood still. She didn't speak of peace. She was peace. Within moments, the room's energy transformed. The mother's breathing steadied, the doctor's tension eased, and the baby arrived with unexpected grace. You see, when you embody truth, your mere presence becomes a tuning fork, silently calling others back to their own alignment. This is the deeper teaching. Transformation doesn't require force or volume. It requires congruence. The power you seek has never been in what you say or do. It lives in who you are in each moment. When you walk in full alignment with your inner flame, reality itself bends to meet your frequency. Sacred practice. Write in your journal. Today I will walk as if I am already who I was born to be. Then move through your day carrying this truth in your cells, letting it infuse every breath, every gesture, every interaction. Observe how the world responds to your aligned presence, the subtle shifts in energy, the doors that mysteriously open, the synchronicities that unfold before you. Notice how rooms shift when you enter them, not because you try to change them, but because you have remembered who you are. Watch as others unconsciously adjust their posture, soften their tone, or lean in closer, drawn to the authentic power that radiates from your being. This is not about doing. It is about allowing your inner light to shine unobstructed. Chapter 28. Teaching Without Words. In the quiet hills of a forgotten valley lived Sylvester, a carpenter whose hands spoke the language of wood. Though he could not hear the world's noise, he felt its deeper rhythms. His workshop became a sanctuary where truth needed no voice to be heard. You see, the universe does not require words to transmit wisdom. The soul that remembers its divine nature becomes a beacon, drawing others to their own light without effort or intent. Sylvester's presence alone carried such power that those who brought him broken furniture often left with something far more precious, a remembrance of their own inner wholeness. As you walk this path of awakening, understand that the greatest teaching happens through being, not speaking. When you align with your inner flame, your very presence becomes instruction. Those around you will feel the shift, though they may not understand why. In a bustling market street, Winifred owned a small shop selling herbs and teas. She never spoke of spiritual matters, never claimed wisdom or insight, yet customers lingered in her presence, drawn to something they couldn't name. She had simply chosen to live in alignment with her truth, to honor the sacred in every simple act, from arranging dried flowers to measuring spices. The law responds not to what you say, but to what you are. Winifred's shop became known as a place of healing, though she offered nothing but honest commerce and authentic presence. People left carrying not just their purchases, but a subtle remembrance of their own divine nature. This truth stands before you now. Your energy speaks louder than your words ever could. The soul that remembers needs no sermon to teach, no doctrine to share. It simply burns with quiet certainty, lighting the way for others through its own aligned presence. Sacred practice. Choose one day to practice silent power, embracing the ancient art of conscious presence. Speak only when necessary and essential, focusing instead on maintaining deliberate alignment with your inner flame, that divine spark that burns eternal within you. As you move through your day, observe carefully how others respond not to your speech, but to your energy and essence. Notice the subtle shifts in their demeanor, the way they mirror your inner stillness. Watch how your quiet certainty creates ripples in the fabric of everyday interactions. As the day draws to a close, sit with your journal in a space of contemplative solitude. Write what shifted, both within yourself and in those around you. What revelations emerged about the true nature of influence? What did you discover about the power of aligned presence? How did this practice illuminate the profound truth that your energetic signature speaks volumes more than words ever could? Let these insights guide you toward a deeper understanding of your own sacred nature. Chapter 29. The Lie of Being Unworthy. In the depths of his workshop, Harlan stood surrounded by half-finished marvels, mechanical wonders that whispered of genius yet remained forever incomplete. His hands would tremble just before completion, his mind flooding with voices from the past. Who are you to create such things? You see this pattern mirrored in your own life, don't you? The projects left unfinished, the dreams abandoned at the threshold of manifestation. Like Harlan, you have believed that worthiness must be earned, that the universe's gifts come with conditions attached. But this is the final illusion you must shed. The law responds not to merit, but to alignment. You were born worthy. Your existence itself is proof of your divine selection. In a small church on the outskirts of town, Dorothy spent years trying to perfect herself for God's love. Each Sunday, she would polish her soul like silver, hoping to earn what was already hers. Until one morning, in the quiet before dawn, she stopped, simply stopped. In that moment of surrender, she felt what her heart had always known. She was already chosen, already complete. The universe does not wait for perfection to bestow its gifts. It waits only for recognition, your recognition of what has always been true. Every soul that enters this world carries the full power of creation within it. There is nothing to earn, nothing to prove. When you understand this truth, manifestation shifts from struggle to natural expression. The law was never meant to be a test of worthiness. It is simply the mechanism through which your inherent divinity expresses itself. Sacred practice. Stand before a mirror in absolute solitude, in a space where you can be fully present with yourself. Look deeply into your own eyes, past the stories, past the doubts, past the years of trying to become worthy, past all the moments you thought you needed to be more than you are. Speak these words with the authority of your soul, letting them rise from the depths of your being. I am worthy because I exist. I have already chosen. Let each word resonate through your being, filling every cell with this eternal truth. Feel the vibration of these words in your bones, in your heart, in the very essence of who you are. This is not an affirmation. It is a remembrance of what has always been true, a recognition of the divine spark that has dwelled within you since the beginning of time. Chapter 30. You were always the law. In a small cottage filled with herbs and ancient remedies, Irma sat with her final student. Her weathered hands, which had healed countless souls, now rested quietly in her lap. For 40 years, she whispered, seekers have come to me asking to learn the law, but what I've truly been teaching is remembrance. You have walked this same path, haven't you? Searching in sacred texts, following teachers, collecting wisdom like precious stones. Yet all along, what you sought was already within you, waiting to be remembered. The law is not a force to be mastered or a secret to be learned. It is the very essence of what you are. When you breathe, when you dream, when you create, this is the law in motion through you. Your existence itself is the law expressing. In a small bakery at dawn, Benny kneaded dough with practiced hands. For years he had thought his work ordinary, until one morning the truth dawned like sunlight through his window. Every loaf he'd ever baked, every smile he'd shared, every moment of presence, it had all been the law flowing through him. He hadn't needed to use it. He had been living it. This is the final unveiling. You are not separate from the power you seek. The flame you've been chasing is the fire that burns within you. Every manifestation, every creation, every miracle flows not from external force, but from internal remembrance. When you truly understand this, seeking ends. There is no technique to perfect, no formula to follow. There is only the return to what you've always been, a living embodiment of the only true law. Sacred practice. Find a quiet moment where you won't be disturbed, a sacred space where the world's distractions fall away. Light a candle if you wish, letting its gentle flame remind you of the eternal light within. Take out your journal. This will be no ordinary writing session, but a communion with your deepest self. Write a letter to yourself from the part of you that has always known, that ancient wisdom keeper who has watched patiently through all your seeking. Begin with, Dear Flame, I see now that you always let the words flow without censoring or judgment, like water from a spring that has waited eons to burst forth. Let your soul speak its truth through your pen, revealing the mysteries it has held since the beginning of time. Trust that whatever emerges carries the signature of your highest knowing. Conclusion. Through these chapters, an ancient truth has stirred within you, not as distant wisdom or borrowed knowledge, but as remembrance, a recognition of what your soul has always known. Each parable, each teaching, each moment of reflection has been a torch lighting the way back to yourself. You came seeking techniques, strategies, and secrets. What you found instead was your own forgotten flame. The universe did not hide its power from you. It waited patiently for you to remember that you were never separate from it. Think back to where you began this journey. You may have felt lost, searching for formulas to manifest your desires. Now you understand. The law was never about attraction. It was about awakening to what you already are. Every word in these chapters has been a mirror, reflecting back your own divine nature. The stories you read weren't about others. They were about you, about the truth that has always lived in your heart. As you close this book, know that nothing real is ending. This is not a conclusion, but a beginning. Your beginning. The flame that guided you through these teachings goes with you. It burns within you, ready to light your way forward. You need no more techniques, no more affirmations, no more desperate reaching for what seems far away. The power you sought has been found where it always was, in the quiet center of your own being. Walk now knowing that you are not a seeker of the law, but its living expression. Let your presence be your power. Let your alignment be your action. Let your being be enough. The truth you've remembered cannot be unlearned. The flame you've rekindled cannot be extinguished. You are the law embodied, the power awakened, the ancient wisdom made flesh. This was never about learning, it was about coming home to yourself. If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.